Hello out there to all of my friends, clients alike. I'm Jonathan Bengal here, host of Naked Tax Talk, where we bear down to the naked truth about our tax lives. And we do that by openly talking about our personal lives, our business lives, and our monetary lives. I'm always asked all the time, why do I show up naked to my show? Being naked and vulnerable are actually almost the same exact feelings. And the way that we overcome them is to have courage and to have confidence. And so that's why I just show up the way I show up, all natural. So I actually should have been on my show last night, and I wasn't quite feeling it. And so because of that, I just kind of went home and had dinner with my husband and watched some TV shows and everything else. And as a business owner, I was feeling like a lot of like this guilt around that I had to come to work and I had to do my show or I have to get things done. And I started really thinking about that and realizing that because I was so worried about focusing on my business, that I really was not allowing myself to just be in the moment and to focus on basically being in the moment with my spouse and having a good time, having dinner, watching Netflix chicks. Like this is what we were up to. And not allowing myself to be in that moment and to really enjoy it because I never left work. And I started thinking about this, and the more and more I talk to a lot of my entrepreneur friends, we kind of have this open conversation about the amount of time that we spend working inside of our businesses. And business ownership is actually not that easy. It's actually it can be very difficult. What's easy, and I've tasted easiness as an entrepreneur. What's easy is when everything is done, everything is set out like it's supposed to be, and you're not worried about back end work, you're not worried about future work, you're not worried about acquiring new clients. You're just kind of like riding the wave of stability. And I've tasted that and I've been there many, many times. And it just so happens that, right now we just got so much work that we're doing, right? Launching, keeping my real business, JB Financial, my primary baby alive, Naked Tax Talk, doing all the fun things with this. And then, of course, creating my 6-week program to help other entrepreneurs to step into their power, right? Remove the fear of the IRS, which then allows them to deduct more and then ultimately allows them to sleep better at night. So needless to say, like there's all this extra work that I've been working on. And it's just constantly kept me busy, 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 busy. In fact, to the point where I'm having a difficult time letting go of a lot of tasks and saying, you know what, let's just hold on that. It's okay. Let's move on. And what's interesting is yesterday I started the process that I know I always have gone through to move me from the state of panic and frantic, and I have so much to do and such little time to do it in, and start separating my work from my personal life. And what question I always ask myself is this question: if I was to die overnight, what would happen to all of the things I'm working on in my business? What would happen to it? And interestingly enough, of course, I would be dead, right? So it wouldn't happen to me anymore. I would be out of the picture, right? It's everything thereafter. And so everything just continues on, right? That's the reality, is life continues on. And the projects that I would have had, would still have been picked up and delivered and somebody else would have done the work, right? Like life goes on. And it's in those moments of realizing that life continues to move forward that I'm able to look back and say, you know what? I'm going to take a chill pill and I'm going to allow myself to start letting go of the idea that I have to be working on my business 24/7. Like I can let it go. I can start the process. And it's not an overnight fix. That's the other thing, right? Like a lot of us, especially if we're like go-getters and we're like boom, 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 move, 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 we want instant satisfaction. And what I'm discovering and what I've known to be true is that it's a process and it takes time to eventually train ourselves to just let go and just to be in the power of being in the moment. And what comes to mind is a meditation that I remember so distinctly when I would sit down and meditate. And that is the idea contemplating and thinking about this idea of non-attachment, letting things go, or practicing contentment, meaning being happy in the moment with what is going on in the moment. And it starts with us essentially saying, okay, non-attachment is going like, all right, knowing that I will die, because this is the truth for us all, and pay taxes, but knowing I'm going to die, and if I should die, how will my life continue? And the reality is life just continues to go on. So we can slowly start to like think about that and say, well, if I die, can I take this coffee cup with me? And the answer is no, right? It stays here in physical realm. It stays here in this world, right? Can I take my sunglasses with me when I die? Can I take these guys with me? And the answer is no, right? They stay here. So we start doing this questioning of, can I take things with me? Should I perish? Does my name go with me when I die? Does this body go with me when I die? And of course, we all can look back at that and say, no, the body remains here, so forth and so on. And so slowly by surely, we can begin to let go of our expectations of how things should be, right? We can start to let go of the expectation that I should be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I should be at the office at 9 a.m. I should have my work done by 3 p.m. I should go to 800 networking events. I should. We can slowly let go of the shoulds, right? Let go of the expectation that will give us breathing room so that we can actually breathe and be in the moment that's happening right now, that's transpiring for us as business owners, right? Allows us to have the moment to go look at our financials and allows us to say, okay, where am I in all of this? Where's my tax liability coming up for the next 7 months? Do I need to buy equipment? Do I need to drive more miles? Of course, that's really limited now, right? So the idea here is to let go of the expectations of what is required of our own selves and to let it go. So we practice this non-attachment by recognizing that it's really about holding on to expectations. And that's really, really hard to do, especially if you're the kind of person that's like, I have a schedule, I have things to do. Or someone like me who's very spontaneous, it's easier to do that. I can just bounce around different things. But surprisingly, it takes time, it takes effort to make a change in our lives. What's also interesting about this, about letting go and expectations, can also come out of our tax lives. So, for example, what I mean by this is that I work with a lot of people who have problems with the IRS, and they can get stuck in the expectation that essentially everything should be done now, right away. And the reality is, everyone I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot of people, is it takes time. It takes patience. It requires us to take time. It requires us to reflect and to look back and be careful and methodical when we do fight back with the government, so to speak. But it's not even that, though. It's about the idea of letting go of the burden that's placed upon us. We're living with a big, huge tax burden on our shoulders. That will always cause us to constantly think about that big, huge looming debt. Why? Because it's a very painful sore spot, because the government, as we know, likes to really bug you, right? Sends you letters, sends you more letters, sends you more letters. Then they come the threatening letters, right? Then the next thing you know it, they've seized something of yours. So it makes sense that when we have this huge burden pushing down on us from a tax perspective, how do we move forward? How do we actually accept what's there? Well, that's exactly it, is that we slowly let go and slowly say, well, you know what? I'm not going to be attached to the notion that I've got all of this tax burden on my shoulders. Because here's what it does do, is it lays on top of you, and then you lose focus of what you're trying to do because you're constantly thinking about that debt. And it happens to be, in this case, a debt of the government, right? So if we learn to just kind of breathe through that and let that go, and then say, I'm going to place trust in a professional, like an IRS enrolled agent, like myself that specializes in tax law itself. That helps to relieve some of that burden. It helps to start opening up your chest cavity so that you can breathe, so that you as a business owner can start focusing on your business. Here's what I'm going to share with you guys today. Letting go takes practice. It's letting the idea of things to let it go. Letting go of what we believe the outcome should be, letting it go. And it can start with simply us looking at that question, like I said earlier. If I was to die today, what would actually go with me? And we can focus on that. And then eventually we hold on to the emotional component that will arise out of that, which typically is a good feeling because you're like, well, I won't take anything with me. And isn't that like great? Isn't that just a lot of freedom right there? Not have to worry about, carrying all this stuff with you, right? So that's the beautiful thing that can come out of us letting go. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes mindfulness to always check with ourselves and say, am I holding on to an expectation here? Am I holding on to a belief that no longer suits the needs of what's happening in my reality? And then letting it go, just trying to let it go. And letting it go creates an empty space for positive energy, in my opinion, anyways, for positive energy to replace it. And slowly we can begin to refill our cup of joy and happiness and love and kindness and all those big, beautiful things that we really enjoy as people. And that allows us then to interact with the world around us in that new space of happiness and joy. Or maybe we are back on. I have no idea. So look, like our internet just like completely went bunkers and now it's back in place and I think it's working because it says I'm live and I can see viewers. Well, all right then. Listen, I don't know how long I'm gonna have some good internet here. So I'm gonna wrap up what I was talking about, and that is the practice of letting go. In conclusion, in a nutshell, when we start to practice letting go of non-attachment and practicing that we're not attached to the outcomes of our expectations, we'll fill that gap with joy and love, which allow us to raise our own internal vibration of who we are, allow our brighter light to shine brighter, and start to attract the people that want to work with us as business owners. That's what we're ultimately chasing. And to really conclude this today, it really boils down to this. It's about allowing ourselves as business owners, when we go home or when we go somewhere and we're not feeling in the mood to work, it's okay. Allow ourselves to work. Allow ourselves to not to work. Give ourselves permission to just allow ourselves to not have to be at work and worrying about our business. Because at the end of the day, our main objective in life is to stay in that middle way, to stay in the middle way of knowing I got things to do and at the same time being capable of relaxing and enjoying my life. That's the middle way. And that's what brings us happiness and joy, is when we're able to stay in that lane as much as we can. Letting go allows us to replace it with joy. That's all it boils down to. And so with that, I'm gonna let you guys go because I don't know how long this internet stability is gonna work. But if you guys would like to learn more about what I talk about, other episodes, if you liked, especially what I like when I talk about some fun stuff, hit the subscribe button below. I'm looking for at least 100 subscribers. That would be awesome. And stay tuned for next week as I have another topic coming out. And until then, you can see, by the way, you can see in real time what happens to someone who doesn't really have, like, is not really in the mood to do something, right? So I was like, I have to come do my show. And in a way, I'm kind of pushing through and I'm still forcing myself through. That's also another one way of letting go. So anyways, so until another time, I'll see you guys all later, and may you have amazing day, evening, morning, or whenever you see my show. Until then, talk to you guys later.